Up and we have some news this morning. Dan Graziano, perhaps not a big surprise, but the Colts with an announcement.
Jeremy Fowler reporting that the Colts are expected to start Riley Leonard in their season finale, not Phillip Rivers. They started Rivers Sunday, even though they had been eliminated Saturday, because he had worked with the ones all week in case they weren't eliminated. So they felt like Riley Leonard wouldn't have been prepared fairly to start that game, but they'll take a look at him here in Week 18 now that it's all over.
It's not a surprise, and it certainly seems like the right thing to do.
Sure.
I don't know that there is you were there this past weekend. I can't imagine there is a sadder group right now than the Indianapolis Colts, from where their season was to everything that's happened over the last 2 months.
They literally can't believe it. I mean, they were 8-2. Like, everything was going great. So, yeah, between the quarterback injury, DeForest Buckner injury, everything fell apart. Yes.
Terrible. Okay, so that's that news there. We'll see Riley Leonard get one shot this weekend. In the meantime, we've got 3 monster games in the NFL. Let's start with our Saturday doubleheader here, and we'll start with the game that will decide the NFC South. J-Mac, we've got the Panthers and the Buccaneers. What do you think will decide the game?
Baker Mayfield, the interceptions that he's had, the last 4 games, he's thrown 5 interceptions, 3 of which that have come in the fourth quarter. At one point in this season, we were talking about him as an MVP candidate, and this team was winning games despite the injuries. Since then, they have really struggled defensively, and on the offensive side of the ball, they need Baker Mayfield to protect the rock.
Nick, what happened to Tampa? I mean, he's right. There was a moment in time we were talking about them as a dark horse and an MVP, and all the rest of that's just fallen to shreds. What has happened to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Nick?
Yeah, at one point we could have blamed it on the injuries, but they've gotten healthier. I think, honestly, earlier in the season, a lot of their games were those kind of coin toss, like one-score games, and they went in their direction. And then we realized that the team really wasn't as good as we thought they were. They went up against some tough teams in the middle of the season and started to lose, and then played some not-so-tough teams and continued to lose. Then got healthy and kept losing. I think this team never really was as good as we thought they were at the beginning of the season when Baker was using his legs to pull out some games at the end.
And you look on your screen there, you realize both quarterbacks in this game were at one time the #1 pick in the NFL draft. Feels like a very long time ago in the case of Baker. I guess it is. Any quick sense here? It should be pointed out that if Tampa wins, they still have to sweat out the game between Atlanta and New Orleans on Sunday.
Yeah, the schedule makers didn't expect Atlanta to win last night. But yes, if Tampa wins and then Atlanta wins on Sunday, then Carolina still gets the division. So, yeah, crazy stuff. Just amazing how Tampa has gotten worse as they've gotten healthier. I mean, it's not supposed to work that way.
They have. And the Panthers have gotten better, but then they sometimes look just terrible.
Yeah. They're up, they're down, they're young.
But one way or another, one of those teams is going to the playoffs, and so we'll see which one it is. Then primetime Saturday night, we got the Seahawks and the 49ers in San Francisco, and that one is going to decide the 1 seed in the conference. Graz, what do you think is the X factor in this game?
Can the 49ers keep Brock Purdy protected if they don't have Trent Williams, the left tackle, pulled his hamstring in Sunday night's game? Short week, 37-year-old player. Probably difficult for him to make it back for this game. Can the protection hold up and give Purdy the time he needs when they're facing that fearsome Seattle rush?
San Francisco's offense, Nick, has been as hot as can possibly be, and I think there are a lot of people who will take the Sam Darnold part of this conversation back to last year. He was in basically this exact same position. Win, and you're the 1 seed in the last game of the year. Last year it was the Sunday night, but either way. And we all remember that didn't go well for him at all. What is your sense of this game, Neek?
Well, he was going up against a much tougher defense. Well, not much tougher, but a tougher defense last year. I think Sam Darnold, in this situation, he needs to play well. That Seahawks defense has been incredible. The 49ers offense seems unstoppable, but they will be slowed by the Seahawks some. Sam Darnold needs to be able to put up enough points against this 49ers defense that's been decimated by injuries. Otherwise, it's really concerning for them headed into the playoffs. Not only do they lose out on their bye, I think they're feeling really bad about themselves if they can't put up points after what we saw most teams, and the Bears, particularly last week in a primetime game, do against that 49ers defense.
Yeah, and I'm looking at Darnold and offensive coordinator Clint Kubiak. They have to be able to come up with a plan to attack this 49ers defense. To what Neek said, what we've seen from Sam Darnold from the last few weeks is him coming through in the fourth quarter. I think that means a lot. His play hasn't always been great throughout this stretch of games, but the second half of the Falcons game that we saw against the Colts, him coming together for a drive to help win that game. And in the Rams game, once the punt return happened, we saw some crucial throws from Sam Darnold. That gives me more confidence and more belief in him as the quarterback with the fourth quarter throws that he's been able to make.
For the 49ers, I like this little reminder reminder, if they win their next 4 games, they would win the Super Bowl. All 4 of those games, including the Super Bowl, are in their home stadium. This game Saturday night will determine them getting home field advantage, and then, of course, Super Bowl 60 will be right there in Santa Clara. And then finally, we get to the Sunday night game, the last regular season game of this year between the Ravens and the Steelers in Pittsburgh. Winner is in, loser is out. Domonique, what's the most important factor in that game?
Can the Steelers stop the run? More specifically, can they stop Derrick Henry? His offense hasn't been very explosive, so you do not want the Ravens to eat up the clock and reduce the number of drives that you have and get to the end of this game being close more quickly than they anticipate. So I think their ability to be able to load up and stop the run and force them to use Snoop Huntley, or I assume will be the quarterback, maybe Lamar Jackson, but force them to attack through the air and not hold on to the ball and not shorten this game, I think will decide whether the Steelers can hang in there or not.
Henry had 36 carries last week and 4 touchdowns in their much-needed win against the Packers. The only reason this game matters for Baltimore. And then on the other side, Pittsburgh will be playing without its most important offensive weapon again because of the 2-game suspension.
And that's the biggest storyline in this game. You think about the last matchup against the Baltimore Ravens, DK Metcalf, 7 catches, 148 yards. Them not having him, they lose the explosive part of their offense. So to Nick's point, they get down too many points. They just don't have enough. Also, Darnell Washington, the tight end, who has been so important for them for this season, won't be playing in the game as well.
They've sort of been limited on offense for much of the year, and an impressive job that Arthur Smith, their offensive coordinator, has done sort of building the thing out of the running backs and the tight ends. But DK Metcalf, even in games where he was not hyper-productive, was an important piece for them on the field. And to not have him, I think it absolutely showed up against the Browns on Sunday, and I think it absolutely shows up against the Ravens this Sunday night.
And the questions around Pittsburgh will be interesting. Domonique, if the Steelers lose this game, do we think it will be Aaron Rodgers' last NFL game? Oof. And do we think it is possible that it is Mike Tomlin's last game as the coach of the Steelers?
Yeah, I mean, I think the Tomlin thing is unlikely, but I do think that the Aaron Rodgers, it feels like at this point, the way that he played this season was kind of, it felt like just holding things together and trying to avoid contact. I don't imagine that there's a long line of teams out there wanting to sign up for this Aaron Rodgers experience, and maybe he's not interested in playing going forward. But the Mike Tomlin decision is a lot more, I think, interesting and up in the air, but I think we know, based on the Steelers' history, it's going to take a lot for them to move on from their coach, and I expect Mike Tomlin to be back also.
Yeah, go ahead, Dan. Final word.
I expect the same thing. I think ultimately there could come a time when Mike Tomlin and the Steelers decide it's time to part ways. Right. But to predict that it'll be next week, I think feels like a lot.
Probably not. And then the Ravens side of it, if they fall short here, things might get a little loud around their coach as well. We'll have to wait and see. All right, we got a men's basketball doubleheader on ESPN2 and the